Well, hello. This is the a turntable that I made for my boys for their old trying trains. It would have to be at least 30 years ago, maybe 35. Just out of bits and pieces from around my shed. And strangely enough, it worked. It's pretty old. It's been sitting on the shelf here, rotting away for a long time, and it's getting a bit stiff in the joints like me. But it still seems to work all right, so I'll just show you it running first of all, and then we'll I'll show you the workings underneath. So first of all, I've got the two wires here that normally there'd be a switch. It's just a positive and negative 12 volts to operate the relay that's in it, and so when I touch those together, that will operate the relay and the thing will start. So I can't sort of hold the camera and that at the same time, so I'll just do that here, and you just believe that it's happening, and then you'll find that with that oh, wait a minute, that wasn't quick, it didn't do it, that wasn't a good start. Anyway, we'll try again. So here we go. Alright, so now she's away. I've got the tracks just sort of marked roughly on here. You'd line the actual tracks up themselves when you need them. But whenever you hit that switch and turn on the relay, she starts to run, and then you can leave it on so that it'll go past the next point if you don't want to stop there. Just leave it switched on, and as soon as it gets before the one you want it to stop at, turn off the switch and it'll stop at the point. Again, my lines on there are only reference things. When you put the tracks on, you'd be a bit more careful with that. And it seems to work quite well. So we'll just start her up again. This is where the joints are starting to jam up. Needs a little bit of help there. Just give it a bit to get it started. The bearings and everything haven't been oiled for 30 odd years. And I tend to make things with very little clearance in them, so it doesn't take long for it to jam up. So yeah, so whenever you turn the relay on, it runs, and when you hold it on, it'll run. Now this time it'll go right around. And if you want it to stop at the next one, you can switch it off at any time, and it'll know where to go wherever it keeps going. Like I say, the bearings are getting tight, and it's got a slipper clutch on it too. I'll show you that in a minute. It's tending to slip a bit because the bearing up the middle is probably getting a bit rusty, I don't know, but I haven't bothered to get in there to oil it for the sake of this little demo. But anyway, that'll just run around there now. As I say, this was made probably in over a weekend, just with bits and pieces, and you'll see what I mean when I turn it over. But we'll just let that go now. It'll stop at the next one because I've turned the relay off. I hope it will. Yeah, so, and it always stops quite reliably. So now I'll just turn the whole thing over, and I'll make the next little video showing the other side of it. Okay, now this is the other side. Not very pretty, I'll agree, but it works, and it was certainly made out of whatever was laying around. Anyway, if we have a look at the top here, it's got just a small 115 volt motor, or 110 volt I think it is. Oh, I don't know, 115 it would be. Who knows? A motor that I got from the electrical section at the TAFE where I was teaching at the time. They told me what two capacitors and two resistors to use to allow me to plug it into 240 volts, and with the cord, which in this case happens to be an old iron cord, which is all I had laying around, could run it off 240 volts. So the motor being geared, it runs quite slow, but I still needed to gear it down by using a big old Meccano set gear on it. Now the main secret part, well it's not secret, but the tricky part of this is controlled by the relay, which is one of these large open frame sort of relays. I don't know where they come from, but Marcus would know about that. That's a 12 volt relay, and that the lever on the top of it that's got the contacts attached to it, I screwed onto this lever here at the side. Just turn my torch on there, and that's got a pin brazed onto it, and that pin drops into these V slots on the outside of the disc. We call it a indexing disc, and that just happens to be an old cymbal from a drum set or something that was laying around our yard. Some of the kids had thrown it over the fence from somewhere, and it just happened to be there at the time I needed it. So yeah, so to make it work, you simply energise the relay with the 12 volts, and what that does is pulls the lever out, and as soon as that lever comes out, it starts to rotate and drops into the next slot. It stops. But if you keep that energised and hold it out, it'll just go on and miss all the miss all the bumps. But when it does energise, or when you do energise the relay, you can then switch it off again if you just want to go to the next slot, or if there's a big distance between them. There's no V notches in this for a while, so the disc is having a bit of trouble because it's upside down. I think the bridge is rubbing on something. But the outside of the disc holds the relay contacts closed, so the motor just keeps running. And once it goes around to the next slot, which will come around there in a little while, it'll drop back into its V, the next V, and shut the motor off and hold it when you need it to be. Now this motor, I think, has got a fairly heavy armature in it because it wanted to keep running. As soon as you turn the current off, switch the motor off with the relay, the motor wanted to keep running, and it'd actually pull the thing out of the V groove and then start it up again. So it needed some way of turning off the action as soon as the lever went into the V groove. So I put a slip clutch in it, and the slipper clutch is this strange looking device on the top here. You can see I've got a lever there with a compression spring and a wing nut on it, sitting on top of an old tone arm out of an old record player that I had at home, because it's got a ball bearings in it. In there, it allows the thing to rotate, and by adjusting the pressure on that spring, it pushes the block of wood that's underneath, very precise block of wood, glued to the gear, and underneath the gear you've got a rubber disc. You can just see it under there, about 3 or 4 millimeters thick. That's glued to the gear, and that rubs on the top of a metal disc, is that rusty brown looking thing there, and that disc is attached to the indexing disc, the symbol, and also to the turntable. So when the pin drops into the groove, it stops the turntable from rotating, but if the motor wants to run for a while, it can by just slipping the rubber across the top of that disc like a slip clutch. So you just adjust the spring down until it just holds it just enough to make it turn, but it can slip if it wants to, if it jams up. Maybe if a loco falls into the turntable or something, it wouldn't keep going, it'd just slip. But it allows it to stop and allows the track to stop in the same place every time, and that's really the main secret of it. Of course, not the main secret, but the main thing that's required of a turntable to work properly. And the other thing, of course, is that it has to be accurate and precision, and you can see by this that it's anything but. But I made everything with screws and bits of wood and stuff, so I could adjust everything to get the centre axis of the bridge exactly in the centre of the circle, and adjusted it so that the motor was dead square, and it has to be dead square and dead in the centre, and otherwise it just won't work, because the tracks might line up one way but you turn around 180 and they could be out by a couple of millimetres, or who knows. If it's a bit off centre, it'll be doubled when you go around 180 degrees, and your tracks won't line up anymore. So it's just something you need to be careful of there. But anyway, as I say, she's not pretty, but it's worked, and when I plug it in it always seems to work. I get it out every now and then, have a bit of a look at it, and I think one day I must make one a little bit better. But it's adjustable, and you can get to it, and there's no fiddling around. These ones that you buy that you've got to pay so much money for, they look pretty but they just don't work, not for any length of time. I haven't seen one yet that has worked reliably. A few people I know have bought them and paid big money for them, and it's only just a matter of months and they're having trouble with them. So why they can't make them robust so that they'll last, and then let the owner pretty them up if he wants to later on. They put all their time into making them look beautiful, but they don't care too much about how they work so long as they get their money. But anyway, that's the story of my little HO turntable, and I'll make another one day, but I'll do my best to make it a bit better, since I've got lathe and and some other equipment here that I can use to make things a little more accurately now. Alright, so there you go, that's the story of that. Thank you. Bye bye.